You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That music can mean but one thing. It is Thursday. It is noon Central. It is 1 p.m. Eastern. Do you know what your options are up to? Well, let's find out together. My name is Mark Longo from the OptionsInsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting, at least we hope so, Options Insider Radio Network. Reminding you guys, if you like what you hear, this program, everything else we're hitting you with throughout the week, keep those reviews coming in your platform of choice. Keep those new folks discovering the network in these troubled and trying times out there. More important than ever, keep those questions coming too. We do love to hear from you guys, mixing things up, doing a little bit different out there today. Why? Because today's episode brought to you by our friends over there at Demand Derivatives. What is Demand Derivatives, you may ask? Well, it's a good question. Demand Derivatives is a startup futures exchange and clearinghouse trading the world's major assets in a creative new way. You already trade on an exchange. Now here is your chance to own one. They're doing something pretty unique. To my mind, I don't think this has ever been done before. You guys are familiar with crowdfunding. You've been out there maybe on a Kickstarter to crowdfund maybe a cool electronic gadget or a video game. What about an exchange, a brand new exchange on the ground floor before it gets out there to the big players and before it gets out there on the overpriced valuations of the IPO and all that? But get in early. Well, the folks at Demand Derivatives are giving you that opportunity. Before they approach large strategic partners for funding, they have set up a crowdfunding portal so that regular traders, just like you, can have the chance to participate as well. How do you learn more? It's pretty simple. Just go to demandderivatives.com, 2 D's in a row. So DEMAND and then derivatives back to back there.com. Click on the crowdfunding portal to learn more. Just go to demandderivatives.com/crowdfunding. We like to thank them for supporting the show. You guys can thank them by heading on over there and seeing what's going on. It is pretty unique stuff, and it's pretty interesting stuff. Spoiler alert, I have participated myself. That's how interested I am in this thing. So it's pretty interesting. It's pretty unique. You don't really get a chance to crowdfund new exchange every day. So if you're intrigued, just want to learn more, head on over to Demand Derivatives. Things are rolling along pretty well. I think they've already raised over $100,000 out there. So it's moving pretty well. But I do believe it also ends the middle of this month, December 15th. So if you're interested, you want to learn more, you got to get cracking. Demandderivatives.com/crowdfunding to learn more. And let's see who we're going to learn from today. First, let's go out to the land of Maine, where we are joined once again by the rockingest of lobsters, Mr. Andrew GIOVINAZZI from OptionPit.com, by way of Carmen Line Capital, by way of the show. Mr. Andrew, welcome back to the program, sir.
It is good to be here in all things Option Insider Radio Network. Yeah, things are Things are cracking.
Things are cracking indeed. And when things are cracking, you know where we have to go. To that sleepy hamlet where it slows things down, known as St. Charles, where we are joined once again by the uncleest of Mikes, Mr. Uncle Mike TOSAW from St. Charles Wealth Management. Uncle Mike, welcome back to the program to you as well, sir.
It's great to be here. And you mentioned Kraken as much as you did. You made me think of a memory from my arena football days. We were staying in a hotel one time, and just by random chance, we happened to see in the lobby Bushwick Bill. I don't know if you remember that rapper from long, long ago, but the first thing he just looked at all of us and said, "What's cracking, y'all?"
That's not at all where I expected you to go. I thought you were going to say Unleash the Kraken from Clash of the Titans, which would kind of be the obvious one. Or maybe there was a Kraken more recently in the Pirates of the Caribbean. But no, Uncle Mike took a left turn, and we're all perhaps the better for it. I don't know. I'll leave you to judge as we head right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the trading block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the trading block, the portion of the show where we break down what the heck is trading. And, earlier in the day, it certainly seemed like we had done this dance before. Virus deaths spiraling out of control, a new record set yet again, a morbid new record there, and yet also major indices hitting intraday new highs. Haven't we done this once or twice or dozens of times before over the course of this year? And it was happening yet again. It does seem like maybe some of the bloom is coming off the rose a little bit out here. Coming into showtime now, we're seeing the Dow up about 0.5%. S&P is close to unched on the day, and we got the NASDAQ up about 0.33%. The vol products were kind of fading a little bit. They were feeling this rally and coming off. Now they're getting a little bit of their juice back, so much so that VIX effectively coming into showtime was about unched from where it was on our last show, right around 21.25 again. So that puts it literally unched from our last show, which is kind of interesting. VVIX down to about 105.5. That puts it down not quite 3 points, about 2.75 points from our last show. And good old VXX, the thing you guys love to fade, coming at showtime was at about a 17.25. Let's see if it's gained any of that back as well. No, still about 17.25 out there. It's not a lot of movement on the VXX front. And the newest addition to the vol space, aka VolQ, was at about 22.75. That was pretty much unched up about 0.25 as well. So not a lot of movement net show to show out there in the vol space. But interesting stuff afoot nonetheless. Let's go back around the horn. Let's go the opposite of the way we came. Let's start with the uncleest of Mikes. Mr. Uncle Mike, sir, in addition to your one-off meetings with rappers out there, what else is cooking in the land of Uncle Mike, sir?
So you're trying to say what's cracking?
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. Or perhaps unleash the Kraken, which is a better known use of that phrase. But hey, I digress.
Got it. Well, I think right now, overall with the market, it looks to me like we're almost kind of staying on the side. The market's just kind of taken the yesterday and today off. We haven't had a lot of movement in it. It almost feels like it's waiting for non-farm tomorrow, and or the unemployment numbers or whatever it is tomorrow before the open. That's kind of what it feels like at this point, in that we're really not up that much today. We were up a little bit more. We were down a little bit. And then yesterday, we really didn't have a ton of movement either. And I'm just referring to the S&P, but it almost feels as if that's what the market's waiting on at this point. We are seeing a tiny bit of upward movement in IEF, which is an ETF that tracks the 7 to 10 year government treasuries. And so with that, it might be a little bit of a preparation for, a little bit of movement. I mean, really a little bit of movement, but whenever markets go higher and bonds go higher at the same time, usually means there might be some displacement in the coming day or so, or a lot of times throughout my experience. So that's one thing that I'm looking at, is that we are getting some movement in the government treasuries today. We are still seeing some upside in energy. We have XLE up roughly 2% on the day, or just under 2% on the day. So we are seeing a little bit of movement with that. But I would say overall, in looking at this market, it appears that we are just kind of waiting and seeing what we're going to have tomorrow. And I typically don't look at, I look at every it's kind of like my routine. The first Friday of the month, I'm usually at the gym at that time in the morning. And I'm usually looking at my phone just to see what the pre-market's doing at 7:30 in the morning Chicago time. But typically, it's not usually a big game changer for me. But the fact that we haven't had a lot of movement in the market the last 2 days makes me think it might be tomorrow. So not to steal the thunder from around the block, but that's kind of what I'm looking at this point.
Look at you just dropping that nugget that you're out there working out at 7:30. Aren't you the hardcore fellow, sir?
Well, it was since COVID. I haven't been to the gym in probably 6 months. But so tomorrow, instead of normally I'm at the gym and I kind of sneak a peek at my phone. But tomorrow, I guess what I'll be doing is when I'm either doing my shadow boxing or push-ups in my living room, I'll be sneaking a peek at the TV, I guess.
There you go. There you go. And Mr. Rock Lobster, hey, what are you doing at 7:30? Are you also hitting the gym that is on the palatial GIOVINAZZI compound? And then B, sir, what are you watching in the markets today?
Yeah, the palatial GIOVINAZZI gym is just run around the forest. That's the gym.
You have to chase the clam pirates. That's your workout for the day, right?
Exactly. Just put on your shoes and run. As far as 7:30 in the morning, actually, I have students that early. A lot of my students are busy professionals, so I'm talking to them pre-open. So I don't have the luxury of Mr. TOSAW, just going to the gym, living the big city life in St. Charles. What is going on? Okay, if you look at the VIX curve, it hasn't moved in a week. Nothing. Very, very little. VXX really hasn't moved in a week. And all I could say is, we had this little thing with Pfizer getting UK approval, which I thought was a big deal. Where is it a big deal? Energy, airline.
Yeah, I remember you were saying that you thought once, it's not an FDA approval, but you thought once one of these vaccines got approved, it would be off to the races. And we're rallying, but you're right, VIX not doing a heck of a lot.
VIX isn't doing anything, but American Airlines is up like $2.5, $3. Delta Airlines, that was a Little John trademark point, it had up I don't know, $4 or $5 in the last couple of days. Like a lot of stocks that, Disney all-time high. Nobody's been going to the damn parks. So somebody must think that something's happening here. Oil getting a bid. I guess OPEC is only going to have a little bit of a production rise. All the industrial companies rallying pretty hard. Retail, Nordstrom was like $15 3 weeks ago. It's $30 now. Macy's making a move. All of the oil drilling services, all making a move. Pretty big moves, by the way. The stock that we follow Schlumberger at the beginning of the month was $13, and now it's $22. So there's been some pretty damn big moves in stocks. The Qs are up 1-2% for the month, but everything else is up a ton. So for listeners out there, things are moving. We're not even, and what's funny is not really even close to the highs we had in June, when everybody thought this COVID thing was just a temporary, everything's cool, remember the COVID, everything is cool. A stock like AAL was $21. A stock like Carnival Cruise Lines, in June, I think it got to 30. Oh, wow. Like $26. It's $23 now. So the stock was like $15, $12 a month, 3 weeks ago. So for parts of the market, yes. From a vol point of view, I think there's, I don't know if the 10th is going to be that big of a deal, FDA wise or not. I really don't know, to be honest, as far as VIX goes. But I think the biggest thing is the Georgia runoff. I don't think the market, at least the vol market, does not want to see one party government. And frankly, I don't want to see either one party government. I think they always do a horrible job. Like the first 2 years, I don't even want to go into it, but Obama's first 2 years, all Trump's first 2 years, like the party, just they run amok when they have control of the House and presidency. So I don't think the market likes that, to be honest. And I definitely don't think they're going to like it if that happens. If the Senate isn't like some sort of balancing force. Market really likes that, the locked government, basically, where they just fight and fight and fight, and they just actually have to compromise. So I think that's holding that January future up. So from a vol trade point of view, I have a lot of January on. I'm not putting any more on. I'm just waiting because I don't think much is going to happen unless there's a big shock to the system. But I think you're going to wait till after the election, and we got another 28 days to go for that. So I think the market is pricing this election similar to the last one. So if you look at how vol moves, I don't expect a lot of action out of VXX, to be honest. It is decaying at like 6-7 cents a day because there is so much future premium in it. But for the most part, it's just kind of like grinding lower, and not really making a move because the Jan future, which is about 50% of VXX right now, was $24. And you've got a $24 future, you have a $21 VIX, and you have a 13% 10-day vol in the S&P 500. So there's a huge overhang of premium, and it will come out eventually. But for people scoring at home, just take a look at how they're pricing things, right? So you price the straddle the week after the election, like the Jan 8 straddle in the S&P 500 is like 160 or 170 bucks. It's pretty expensive. But like the D straddles are like those vol just drops off dramatically for the month of December. So, there's definitely a price bulge there. It's going to act just like we had, I think, into the election the last time. VIX will probably stay firm even as the market goes up because, everybody be asking why. And that's just because it's the whole forward vol nature of how VIX works. The futures work, and ain't going away. So unless we get a drastic surprise, and I think the market does expect the FDA to approve Pfizer's drug, unless they want to stick it in Donald's eye and wait till Biden is inaugurated and then they approve it on the 22nd or something like that. But for the most part, I think that's what we got. So a lot of stocks are going to make quiet rallies. Tons of them are really starting to lift. Food processors, minerals, there's tons of them that are still quite a ways down from their highs, still 30 to 40% down. So I think that's where some of the people are like bargain shopping here at the end of the year for stocks. So I'm interested in what TOSAW's take on that because I know he's a diehard fundamentalist and reluctant bull. But right now he's probably not as reluctant, I guess, because aren't we at all-time highs today?
We are. So it is still, even though I think we're off those intraday highs now, still it is an Uncle Mike type of day because it's green. On the screen, let's see what all this green is leading to from an overall volume perspective. Let's start out there in the big dogs, the big indices. You guys like to trade, even maybe a little less so now. VIX doing some decent paper, about 377,000 contracts on the tape as of a few minutes ago. The ADV has come in a little bit. It was north of 600K not too long ago. Now it's down to about 536. Still robust, but not maybe blowing the doors off right now. SPY at about 1.5 million contracts exactly. The ADV a little bit shy of 4, about 3.75 million out there. The S, not even 500K on the tape, about 416,000. The ADV a little bit north of a million, about 1.1 million. The Q's 473. The ADV has come in a little bit as well. It was over a million. Now it's about 905,000 out there. And then we got the old small caps, aka IWM, at about 218,000. The ADV 640s. That's pretty robust out there. By the way, if you're interested in small caps, it's like a lot of people have been talking about small caps all of a sudden. We do talk about it a lot over there on TWIFO coming up later today at 1:30. In fact, we're going to have our buddy, been on this show many times, Mr. Matt Amberson from Morat's, making his debut appearance on TWIFO today because he's been doing a lot of interesting research into the crazy skews that are lining up out there in things like IWM and, of course, the RUT options and everything else like that. He's going to break it all down for us in some fascinating detail coming up in a little bit later on TWIFO. So if you're intrigued by all things small cap equity, and a lot of people have, I know Brian's been talking about it more on his OPR shows. All of a sudden, a lot of people have small caps in their focus, whereas maybe earlier in the year they did not. So if you're one of those folks, stay tuned for TWIFO in a little bit. If you're listening after the fact, just hit next. It'll be there waiting for you. Let's go out to the most actives out here. Top 10 little names, not so little today. Cost you nearly 250,000 contracts to break into the top 10. That gets you all the way to Baba. Them number 9 were already over 300K. It's a pretty active day, listeners. That gets you all the way to AMD. 308,000 contracts on the tape. Number 8, Pfizer. 345. I wonder why that one's moving. Someone that actually, a lot of the names Andrew just broke down in our top 10 here today. Number 7, the aforementioned Carnival Cruise Lines, a.k.a. CCL, at exactly 500,000 contracts. We're already at 500,000. We're at number 7. Listeners, that shows you we're in a pretty active day for the single names. Number 6, good old Neo back in the top 10, 585,000 contracts. Number 5, Palantir. It's been kind of a perennial top 10er of late and still there today. 676,000 contracts. Listen, we're getting up there really fast. Number 4, our friends across the street, Boeing. Maybe the rumors of the impending return of their barbecue has driven up some paper. Either way, 682,000 contracts on the tape for Boeing. What's going on? Crazy town. Number 3, Tesla. Only number 3 for Tesla. That shows you how topsy-turvy things are today. 737,000 contracts. What could have usurped Tesla? Well, another name the Rock Lobster just talked about, American Airlines. Whopping 745,000 contracts on the tape. All that vaccine juice, good for a lot of paper out there today. Number 1, you know what it is. It's still Apple, the big dog. 858,000 contracts on the tape out there. Let's also, because it is the beginning of the month, that means we have the numbers for last month. Let's go out there really quickly and see what lit it up out there from an overall options market perspective. Our friends at OCC, kind enough to send over the numbers before the show so we can break them down for you here today. And spoiler alert, a year of the pandemic, a year of an election. Go figure, November is going to have some paper. And yeah, it was, I think the technical term is robust. It's up 71% from November of last year. November 2020, total cleared volume at OCC, 677.2 million contracts. It's up 71% from this time last year. The highest November ever. If you're wondering where this falls in all time, it's number 2. Didn't quite crack the number 1 spot, but it's pretty darn close. So all it takes is a pandemic and a very tight, contentious election here in the U.S., and you get the number 2 overall options month of all time, listeners. Year-to-date ADV is 29.3 million contracts, up nearly 50% from this time last year. Let's break it down a little more. Remember, they clear other stuff at OCC, so let's just clear that away. Let's go out to the options landscape. 673.6 million contracts, up 72.4% from this time last year. Equity options, drilling down a little bit farther. 640.2 million contracts. That's up 78.9%. ETF options, that's 185.7 million. That's almost 50%, 49.9% increase from this time last year. Index options, they've kind of been a bit of a laggard if you've been paying attention of late. 33.5 million contracts, actually a 2.1% increase. I'll have to go check. This may be the first time we've seen an increase in index options for the entirety of the year. I'll have to go look, but it's been a weird year for index paper, and the folks at the SIBO obviously lamenting that more than anybody. Futures, I guess another area has kind of been a bit of a dark spot in overall volume. Let's see how futures did last month. Total futures volume, remember, pretty much the only futures they cleared at OCC are VIX futures. So let's see, about 3.5 million contracts, a 32.2% decrease from November of last year. November 2019, not exactly a tumultuous time for VIX futures. That shows you how little VIX futures volume is going up. That's why folks at the SIBO so giddy about trying to get some of these new ETPs back into the market. Try to drive some of that paper again, because without the old stalwarts like XIV and everything else out there driving a lot of flow, that's really just annihilated the futures volume out there on the VIX front. So even on a month like November, couldn't get any paper going out there in the overall options. Let's look really quickly. Let's see who the big dogs are out there in terms of overall market share. Who's ruling the roost out here? Let's see. Still, SIBO looks like the overall, but again, these are exchange groups now, so they're kind of cheating. They're putting all their exchanges together. SIBO has about 37%. That includes the core SIBO at about 22.25% of overall. Actually, that's last year's flow. This year is less. It's 35.3% total. SIBO itself only accounting for 18%. Again, that shows how much volume has decreased in their core proprietary products of VIX and SPX, and they're kind of scrambling there. Box actually ticking up 3.4%, up from 2.5% last year. Our buddies MIAX out there on Volvuse land, yeah, they're killing it out there. 11.25%, up 2% from this time last year. If you pay attention to the news, we almost can't keep up. They're buying something new, seems like every other day out there. So the MIAX folks crushing it out there. NASDAQ actually looking pretty good as well. And again, this is the entirety of the exchange groups. This is the core NOM, this is ISE, Gemini, all that. This is 6 exchanges added into one. But 39.5% is where they stand right now. It's up from 34.9% this time last year. So gaining some volume in their core places like NASDAQ, the NOM, which has languished traditionally. Philly actually down a little bit, which is kind of interesting. Philly is a big dog over there at 13.7%. And NYSE down a lot. Wow. ARCA and Amex combining for only 10.5% of the market, down from 16.25% last year. So fascinating stuff. You guys can dig into more of that yourselves over there at OCC. But it is kind of fun to see how the market is shaping up these days. We'll see how the earnings front is shaping up. Remember, you guys can get all these reports for yourselves. You know where to go. TheOptionsInsider.com. It's all completely free. We had some big names popping off this week. Still have some numbers. So we got Zoom on Monday. We had Salesforce on Tuesday. They're making headlines. They're gobbling up Slack for some absurdly expensive valuation. So that's been an interesting one to watch. Box out there as well. Wednesday, Five Below. Uncle Mike goes when he's feeling a little pricey. He doesn't want to go to the dollar store anymore. He heads over to Five Below. Snowflake, Synopsys, SPLK Technologies. And then we got Thursday today. We had Land's End, Dollar General, Uncle Mike's go-to spot. Kroger, Michaels, TD, MRVL, a bunch of stuff popping off after. Let's see what we've got here for earnings, move, results reports. This is hot off the presses from our friends over there at ORATS for today. Let's go to Snowflake. A lot of people were freaking out about Snowflake earlier this year. Let's see what we got here. Let's see. They went into their announcement, $292.69. They were pricing in about 12.5% in terms of vol. They delivered 10.7%. Go figure. Another name underperforming out there. Let's go an area we don't go a lot. Let's go to Michaels. They were at 10.25 going into their announcement. They're pricing in 16.7%, and they delivered 18.3%. So there you go. A little bit of overperformance out there in terms of Michaels, which is an interesting one. Arts and crafts stores you guys are familiar with out there. Kroger, an important one. Obviously, we've all seen this in 2020, how important the grocery chains are. 32.25 coming into their announcement. They were pricing in 4.8%, and they delivered 4.1%. So another name underperforming out here. I'm not sure what Splunk Technologies even is, but it's top in my list. Let's see. It's at 205.91, so it's kind of lofty. They are, let's see. They were pricing in a 7% move. They delivered 23.5%. So Splunk is moving. It's moving like a monster today. Let's look really quickly, see where Splunk is right now. This is a big data company out here. Those are obviously very hot right now. It's trading 166.91, so it's gotten a little bit of that movement back, about 9 or so points. So not quite off as much, but in the early blush, this thing was getting crushed. DG, Uncle Mike's favorite, Dollar General, 217.5. They were pricing in 4%. They delivered 2.2%. Five Below, 156.07 going into their announcement. They were pricing in 8%. Get this, listeners, they delivered 3.5%. So yeah, the narrative continues to unfold here of if you want to buy premium in the earnings season, then I think as Brian would say on his OPR show, just let on until the urge goes away, because it has not been a good trade out here at all. That's just a handful of listeners. You got a ton of them here. You guys, you know where to go. TheOptionsInsider.com to get it all rolling out there. Actually, let's go to one. Actually, let's not. We already did a jewelry related and crafts related name. There's a ton more here you guys can look at for yourselves. Tell you what, let's break up really quickly. Some popping off today after the bell. Then we got to keep on rolling at the odd block. We got MRVL after the bell today. They were at 45.62. They're pricing in $1.75, and they're pricing in $2.50. In the past, they moved $1.75. So a little bit rich. We know how that's probably going to work out. ULTA that's out there. And of course, the makeup category out there. Let's see, 282, very rich out there. They were pricing in 21.80. In the past, they've moved 21.5. So pretty much in line. Kind of hard to argue against that. And Big Lots, they were at 52.5. They were pricing in 604. In the past, they moved 535. So not a lot, it looks like, love there. Let's see. Costco. That's coming up next week. We'll save that for later on in the show. As we keep on rolling right on into the Odd Block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Odd Block. You know what time it is. Time to unleash our Eye of Sauron upon the market. See where it fixes its gaze first. And we're first fixing our gaze on the biggest name out there to come across our radar. This is Extended Stay America out here. Ticker symbol, appropriately enough, stay. So just stay where you are out there. Let's see, trading today, where are we today? $14.44, up about 40 cents or nearly 3%. So a good run out here in Stay. And what did our Eye of Sauron find out? Well, actually, before we get to that, let's see if I can look at the, some reason there we go. 1 year ago, it was trading about $14.50. So if you looked at the year, it's like nothing happened from Stay. It is pretty much exactly back where it was a year ago. In the Great Nadir, looks like I got down to about $6.50 or so, then pretty much turned right around. This is not one of those ones that languished for very long. By June 1st, it was trading, looks like about $12 again, and then it didn't sell off that hard on June 8th. And by August 3rd, it had rallied again to $12.75. So it surpassed its June 8th high by less than a month later. And now, like I said, trading $14.44. So Extended Stay America, surprisingly weathering the pandemic fairly well. And it seems like someone out there perhaps had this on the brain. Let's see what we found out here. So our Eye of Sauron first fixed on kind of one of the biggest prints we saw going up today. Kind of hard to miss. It was a 25,000 lot of the April 2021, so obviously next year, $14 calls going up for $1.50. That was close to the bid. The bid was $1.45. So it looked initially like, oh, maybe someone doing a bunch of overriding, which, again, kind of hard to argue with. The stock's had a decent move of late, maybe writing a little bit of a line in the sand. It's a little bit farther out than we might like, but interesting. But we thought, let's look a little bit closer, dig a little bit deeper, see what else is going on. It's a big print to go up by itself. This was crossed, by the way, so take some of that execution price with a bit of a grain of salt. When we dug a little bit deeper, we found, also, looks like at the same time, a 20,000 lot of the April 12 calls going up for a whopping $2.70, not that far from the offer over there. So it seemed like, oh, maybe someone buying one and selling the other, rolling it up a little bit. But it didn't really make sense because there's more size on the second leg. When that's happening, usually that's a bit of a sign that there's a house money roll at work. They got a little bit of money they're working with. And if they were selling those calls, that would not be the case. They're probably buying them. So we did a little bit further. This is how much we like you guys. We did a little bit more digging just to see what the heck was going on out here. It turns out those April 12 calls were actually opened way back on September 22nd. We saw 20,000 of them going up exactly back then for, let's see, what was the price? It was $1.49, and paper was pretty much lifting the offer. And that makes more sense. So someone coming in, gobbling up those April 12s for $1.50, and now, you know what, he's like, I'm going to get these, I'm going to close these bad boys off. But I'm not going to just completely get out of the party. I'm going to keep the party alive. I'm sitting on, obviously, $1.20 or so in profit. Let's put that back to work, keeping it the same month, which is kind of interesting, and put it back to work a couple of strikes higher at the 14 strike, and doing so 25,000 times now as well. So it looks like this one, at least in the first blush, Mr. Rock Lobster, seems like it paid off pretty well. Do you concur that this is a house money roll? And if so, what are your thoughts on him keeping the party alive and then not quite doubling down, but adding more in the same expiration month, sir, just a few strikes higher?
Well, Mr. Longo, I have to say, I believe your analysis is quite accurate. I'm trying to put on my,
they don't just give out the big cheer here for nothing, sir. You got to earn it.
It's just not your proximity to that tasty lunch over at the Boeing cafeteria across the street.
I missed that barbecue, sir. It was a good bit of business, but I digress.
Well, this old extended stay, I mean, this is I would say back to the pre-pandemic level. I think that's good reason for them to kind of do the house money roll. They're like, okay, we've got to move back. Things still aren't great yet, but we'll take our money and hit the bricks. So I can't disagree. It just looks like house money, and we're almost at 3,700, and this stock is now at, I believe, I don't think it's a 52-week high, but dang, it's close. If it closes here, I think 52-week high. So I think extended stay. The person doing the house money roll would like to have an extended stay in the stock.
Yes, they certainly want to extend their stay at the very least. Are you as surprised as I am? This stock has fared pretty well during the pandemic. They really didn't. They got beat up very quickly, and then they shrugged it off almost instantaneously. And they've actually survived this year pretty well, which is kind of, I guess, a lot of people doing extended stays right now. I don't know. Interesting stuff out here. But, it didn't surprise our trader friend here. He's doing all right, and he's keeping the party alive. So maybe if you think his analysis is good, maybe it's worth keeping an eye on stay out there. Let's keep an eye on our next name. And now this is a newcomer to the odd block out here. This might be one of your Little John Robin Hood offenders here, Mr. Rock Lobster. It has all the ears about, not the least of which the price. This is Transenterix. Try saying that 5 times fast. Transenterix Inc. Ticker symbol TRXC. TRXC. Trading right now, Mr. Rock Lobster, a whopping 47 cents. Yeah, this has all the juice of some Robin Hood crazies on here. Let's see. Maybe not. Let's see. Before we get to that, let's break down what's been going on in the year that has been for Transenterix. By the way, it's like this is a holding company for a couple of other telecoms like ICES Telecommunications and a few others out there. They've had a rough year, which is interesting because a lot of people using that equipment right now. So you think maybe the demand would have been strong. But a year ago, it was trading $2.50. This thing has just been annihilated. And back in the great nadir of March, it got down to, looks like around 28 cents. Just annihilated. Then it rallied again. Then it had a little brief shine of life. Guess when it was, listeners? Actually, not June 8th this time. It was June 9th, so they missed it by a day. It got up to 87 cents. Seems like maybe the turnaround was in, and then nope. Wings clipped again, back down to 30 cents within a couple of weeks, and it just never really recovered. It's kind of been languishing there, up to about 48 cents now, so has a bit of a trend upward the last couple of weeks, but kind of been a long, slow, just slog of nothing here ever since that sell-off after June. So let's see what our eye of Sauron. Hopefully the Viceroy not listening, he'd be deeply offended to us talking about trading options on a 48-cent name. Just ticked up 48 cents now. Let's see. Let's see a 3,000 lot of the July 1s. Yes. The July 1 strike call, listeners. These are always fun. Going up for 12 cents, a couple cents off the bids, Mr. Rock Lobster. Looks like someone coming out and wanting to take, a nice 12 cents off the table to overwrite against some of their holdings here in Transenterix. Kind of hard to argue with them. I guess you're taking 12 cents off the table on a 48 cents name. That's not a bad little return there, Mr. Rock. It is all the way out to July, so maybe a little bit longer than we'd like. But what are your thoughts on someone overwriting a 48-cent stock, sir?
I think you're taking this one to the giggle festival, is what it feels.
I blame you guys and your Robin Hood Little John for unleashing these hordes upon us, sir.
So just to let you know, Mark's almost doubled his account size in 6 weeks with Robin Hood, by the way. So he's done very well with that. So you mock and you jest him, but the man's never worked so hard in his whole life. So I'm very proud of him. But anyway, this particular one, I mean, what do you say about? I mean, Alex, I think his hat must be spinning. The Viceroy's hat must be doing whirligigs on top of his head right now. where you go and you write the what do you do with this? A long-term override. But hey, you have this marketplace. Is TRXC, is it an EV stock? Because hey, if it's an EV stock, it eventually will go up. That's the law now. I'm actually trying to find it. TRCX. I can't stop laughing at the $1 stock. But I shouldn't laugh because fuel cell went from what, like $2 to $10 in about 2 weeks. So I guess hey, anything can happen. And this TRXC, I don't know, Mark. What do you make of this? And it just it looks like they're selling the one calls, but why do you sell a one level call? I can't see the win there.
I don't know. Close to 20% return for a few months on a crappy name. I guess there are worse things, but yeah, you'd think if you're holding this crappy name, the whole point is for it to pop, right? So you're kind of clipping your wings there. So I could see having and going all the way out to July actually to clip your wings. It doesn't really. Then it kind of raises the question: why hold this nonsense at all? But yeah, he's getting percentage wise. It's not bad.
It's a huge win.
All other considerations aside, just look at the percentage wise. He's cleaning up. When's the last time we had a call right close to 20%? So I guess that's all right.
And the takeouts are over 50%. Like
yeah, if it rallies, he's looking pretty good. Yeah.
Right? So the guy's going to be laughing at us. Yeah, he's going to be like, ah.
So there you go. That's why he's doing it. He's actually
so smart.
He's an options savant. We're just mocking him here. But yeah, if you're going to put these little kind of nonsense names in your portfolio, I guess you could override them. But then again, you're kind of at a certain point, you're like, well, why bother? Even though it's not that there are worse returns, obviously, than having it double and take your 12 cents off the table. But if this name's going to pop, it's going to pop, and you're going to clip yourself at the one strike. Interesting stuff. What do you guys think about this wave of cheapy names that is kind of deluging the options market these days? Is it the Robinhood folks? We are seeing a lot more of these on our unusual scans than I can ever recall seeing before. So there is certainly some smoke to that fire. Folks out there saying, "Hey, this is some new paper flooding the market out here." Let's see what our final name is. Actually, Mr. Rock Lobster, you're always asking for reviews. Let's go back and I'm so accommodating here. I'm going to accommodate you once again. Let's go back to your favorite name. This is MOMO Inc. Ticker symbol MOMO, MOMO. It's a Chinese name here. They're trading right now. I won't say where they're trading right now. It might be a little bit of a spoiler, even though we're past expiration here. But let's go back in the Wayback Machine to October 26th, actually, where we profile the 2000 lot of the MOMO November 16 halves, going up for 47 cents, lifting the offer. Stock was at $15.10 at the time. A bunch of these went up. That was the largest block on the day. We had other blocks going up for different sizes. Total of about 20,000 traded on the day. So it was a pretty active contract. Another one of these weird ones, too, because there was a lot of back and forth. At the end of the day, the net change of OI was only about 13,000. So a lot of back and forth on the strike as well. We thought we'd keep an eye on these. And it looks like these probably didn't work out. Our first hint was that stock closed at $15.31 on expiration. So they only got a 21-cent net run through the lifespan of these options. These are 16 half strikes. So first blush, probably not going to look too good. Let's see. This one, interestingly enough, looking at the options flow, which is obviously more salient to see what they actually were up to out there as opposed to just the stock. These things were pretty popular. They traded 24,000 more times on the 11th. And that was about almost the exact same amount as the OI. The OI never changed. 24,000 contracts trading and the OI barely budged. That's strange. On that day, they were trading for around 37 cents. So this was a popular strike a couple of times. It is possible our friend got out there, but I don't think so because it looks like they took off about 4,000 more on the 12th the next day. That was for around 22 cents. So these things got hit pretty hard. And then the rest, they just let ride. They never closed them out. So they were left holding the bag on looks like about 9,000 of these bad boys, Mr. Rock Lobster, that went out worthless. So this is one of the ones where it looks like one of our lines in the sand puts have been working out. Buying calls, not always the case. And it seems like this one, Mr. Rock Lobster, was a bit of a bridge too far. Do you concur, sir?
Maybe so, huh? What do you think on this one? I think bridge too far, sometimes just okay, I mean, the reality is this. I think a lot of people just look at calls and, you need the stock to move. And if you don't get enough of a move, you're not going to make the money. So even though it looks like it's in touch, you pay that pricey vol, and then, the stock just kind of limps up there, and then you're out of luck. So that's all I would say on that one. Just didn't quite make it. Not as savvy as our line in the sand people, I have to say. Not as savvy as the line in the sand people.
Not as savvy. Does seem that way. Let's see if you guys are savvy. Well, wait a minute. I know you're savvy. Let's see what you have on your mind. A little bit of the old Thursday mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to the Mail Block, the portion of the show where you guys take the reins, your questions, your comments, your insights. A lot of questions flying back and forth in our live chat. You guys can join us, as always, via the Mixler out there. Mr. Unlimited chiming in saying, this is my first time on Mixler. Why don't you guys stream on YouTube? We get that question every now and then. We have explored other live streaming options. The problem is most of those require a video component, so things like Periscope and other. You see how hard it is to get Uncle Mike and the Rock Lobster to figure out just regular audio streaming on Skype. So if I had to ask them to add a video component, it might explode in their faces and kill them both. Also, there's some other logistical issues that make it a little bit challenging. For example, YouTube Live, on certain platforms, they have certain requirements you have to meet in terms of how long you've been doing, how many subscribers and things before you can live stream. So it's a little bit onerous. Plus, I'm not sure if we could just stream. We're looking into it about if you can just stream with our static image. I think you can, but again, it depends on the platform, whether it's desktop versus mobile, and how you have to be able to do it. It's very funky. So we like this one for now because it is primarily audio. Everyone can get it. But you're right. It is not a platform everyone has heard of. So we are exploring others like your Periscopes and other. We're looking at some interesting overhauls coming. So you guys stay tuned for that. But we will be working on those. By the way, some folks saying looks like Luigi. Go, my boy Luigi. And they say he's having audio problems. I don't think that's the case. Luigi, must be check your end. Everything seems to be working here. If it's not working, our producers in there will stay in touch with you. They monitor the chat in case there's any problems out here. Let's go out to Revon. Revon Gorges. He says, I listened to you guys on your app a few hours after the market closes. Great stuff. Well, thank you, Revon. He says, I haven't heard all of the episodes, though, but how did you guys all get your nicknames after food? Well, not all food. Uncle Mike is not after food. He's just Uncle Mike. He's named after your Uncle Mike. There, the rock lobster, I guess you can think of that as food. Lobster is a creature, but it is also a delicious dish for some folks, so I guess you can call that food. And the greasy meatball, that's all his own fault. I think he mentioned one day back in the primordial ooze days of the show that someone called him that in high school or something. And so I just, of course, immediately seized upon it and made it his go-to nickname ever since. So that's his own fault. So that probably kicked off the food love out there. So yeah, blame the meatball. A lot of them other, we got Matt out there. He doesn't have a food-based nickname. Dan, a lot of most other ones do. Just the rock lops, just the pit guys, really. I blame them. All right, let's see. Next, Tony Weber, also in the live chat, one of our frequent listeners. He says, if work, quote unquote, gets in the way of my listening to the show, what is the quickest way to get the broadcast to my ear holes? In quotes, yes, the good old ear holes. Mr. Unlimited recommended our app. Our app is a great way to get that. It gets the shows instantly, or just subscribe to us on your major platforms. Apple, could be Google Podcasts, wherever I like Pocket Cast, but to each their own. Our app will get it all for you too. Then you get it the instant it comes out. We obviously churn out a lot of audio content here, so the podcasts are usually available a couple of hours after the live stream. So if you want it instantly in your ear holes, the live stream is the best place. Obviously, we bump you guys up to the top of the list here in terms of questions as well. But yeah, the app is great because the app also supersedes all of the episode limits you get on places like iTunes and others where they only give you maybe 50 or 100 of the most recent episodes. A lot of our content goes back a long way. So if you want to get all of it, the app is the best place. Our website will do that too. But yeah, if you subscribe on most of the major podcast platforms, there we go. People asking about Neo out there. A lot of fun stuff here. Let's look here. Here's an interesting one. We touched on this yesterday with Dan on Options Bootcamp. I want to get your thoughts on this as well because you are Mr. Wheel here, Uncle Mike. He says, my question is about the wheel strategy. This comes from Theodore Domzalski. He says, if one is doing a covered call right, why let the stock get called away? Wouldn't buying back the call close to expiration be almost identical to letting the stock be called away? Same question for the cash secured put. Why get assigned? Why not just buy back the put near expiration? Wouldn't that loss be the same as getting assigned? I'm probably missing something. Aren't they synthetically the same? And happy Thanksgiving. Well, happy Thanksgiving to you, belatedly there, Theodore. Mr. Uncle Mike, you're a big fan of the wheel, or as you call it, the triple income strategy. It seems like Theodore may be missing something with the whole point of the wheel is to get the wheel rolling. If you're rolling everything, you're not really doing the wheel. But what do you have to say for his idea of taking things off at the last second before expiration, sir?
Well, that's a debate that has probably happened at money shows, trade shows, wherever option traders and educators get together. That debate's probably happened, in my estimation, at least 6,542,000 times. And I think you guys would probably agree with me on how often that debate has happened amongst traders. But there's always an advantage and disadvantage to both, in that if you're in a position to where you're looking to either take the underlying or take assignment if you are selling a put, or let it get called away if you own the stock, then there can be some advantages to that, and that there still is volatility, or there still is juice all the way up until the end of the day. So, for example, I trade SPY a lot. That's the primary focus of my trading. And usually if you look at an at-the-money option at expiration, it's usually worth 30 cents typically until like 2 minutes to go in the trading day. And so if you feel comfortable taking assignment of the stock or getting called away, then you're getting that extra juice, if that's one thing with which you're looking for. Now, if you're doing spreads or things like that, I would highly recommend never going into expiration or never going into settlement, but that's a whole nother topic. But in terms of what's the difference, you're getting that actual you're getting that last little bit of premium that you normally wouldn't get, and it does exist. Now, with that being said, I personally have a rule I've talked about on the show is I like to get out when I've achieved 80% of the sold premium. So, for example, if I sold a covered call for $1, if that call is worth 20 cents, I get out. Now, if you're concerned with staying in the stock, what I like to do is just sell a call spread. And that way, if the stock does go up to the high heavens, then you get to be a part of it. And by selling a call spread, you don't get as much premium. But if you kind of want to have your cake and eat it too, like it sounds like you want to do, Theodore, I think you're better off just selling a call spread against your long stocks. That's my take on it.
There you go. I figured you have some ideas here because you are Mr. Wheel after all. But yeah, Theodore, the whole point of the wheel too is also you want those legs to kick in. So if you're rolling all the time at the wheel, at the end of the day, hey, Uncle Mike, as he pointed out, there's still some juice there. It doesn't just go away instantly. And then B, the whole point of the wheel is you're identifying strikes you may want to pick up the stock in, and then you could turn around and wheel out of it and get, as Uncle Mike puts it, the triple income. So if you're not doing that, you're not kicking off the wheel. The wheel never gets to turn. So you're not really doing the wheel. You're just selling puts and rolling them. That's a different thing entirely. All right, we got to keep on rolling. It is time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to Around the Block. This is indeed the portion of the program where we break down what we're keeping an eye on for the rest of this week into the weekend. And, of course, till we come back together here, at least on this show on Monday. Like I mentioned, there are some big earnings still popping off here this week. We have them all broken down for you over there on the website. Let me break down a couple really quickly what's coming up later this week into next week. Costco popping off on the 10th. They were at 383.5 as the time of this report. They were pricing in 11.25. In the past, they moved 978. So extra juice in Costco, which we all know how well that works. Lululemon, they have the infamous sheer-through yoga leggings out there. 372.60. Man, juicy in Lululemon land. They were pricing in $27.92, so maybe not so juicy on the vol front because in the past they've moved $32.10. someone getting the memo out there in Lululand that maybe overpricing on the vol front, not exactly a good thing, because right now this season is standing at a, what do we got here? We've got a, actually, it's not looking as bad as it was. It was at about a 74% right now here. So not as bad as it was, but still pretty bad. Check them all out for yourselves. Earnings move result, earnings season reports over there, theoptionsinsider.com. Let's go back around the horn. Let's start with the Rock Lobster. Sir, if folks want to know what you're watching, if you take your glasses off and become Vol Man, what is he watching?
Vol Man's watching this crazy VIX curve, seeing what the heck is going on. I think that's, why, what, how. Like we keep kind of grinding up here with this vol not really coming in. That's what we're watching for the end of the week. And December 10th, you have some FDA, possibly a domestic approval for the vaccine. Could or cannot be a thing. And then we have some payrolls tomorrow, which could give the market a little bit more of a boost.
It can indeed. Mr. Uncle Mike, same question for you, sir. What are you watching for the rest of this week into the weekend?
Well, definitely watching the non-farm payrolls for sure, like I talked about at the beginning of the show. Seeing if we can make new all-time highs. We actually were at new all-time highs today. We're not there anymore, but nonetheless, we're down 3 points in the S&P. So I can't say I'm exactly running for the hills yet by any means. So checking that out. And then, of course, seeing whatever surprise news there's going to be today.
You heard it here first. Uncle Mike says, run for the hills. Hide your money in the mattress. And maybe I'm paraphrasing just a little bit. Unfortunately, that music means we come to the end, at least of this program. But like I mentioned, a lot more to come a little bit later. If you want to break into all that crazy skew and volatility madness, what's going on in small cap, stay tuned. We got Matt from Orats joining us over there on Twife in about half an hour. If you listen to live, we'll pump some fun stuff in. I see all you guys mentioning about doing live streaming and, we're worth all these dollars a month and everything. People ask that a lot. People obviously want that in this day and age. And some people are actually looking, a lot of you actually are asking for, some type of premium experience you can do in addition to that, something exclusive to you guys who like to tune in live. And we are considering something like that. So stay tuned, all of you who are asking about these tweaks and upgrades and cool new features. We're working on some cool stuff behind the scenes. I think you're going to like it. We're just trying to dot all the I's and cross all the T's and figure out exactly what makes the most sense for you guys out there. But don't worry, there are fun things in the future. So stay tuned for that. And of course, if you want to check out what each of our cohorts are working on, let's start in the land of Uncle Mike, sir. If they're intrigued, they want someone to hold their hands, maybe explain the wheel strategy to them in these trying times. Where should they go? What should they do?
stcharleswealth.com. Reach out to my website, find my information. Let's talk. I'm a financial advisor who's not afraid of the option product.
But he is terrified right now and is running to the hills, so watch out for that. Of course, I am joking. stcharleswealth.com, the place to go to learn more on Mr. Rock Lobster, who is kind of food named. What can folks find over there at your site? And also, where can they reach out to Volman?
Hey, you can do all that. Andrew at optionpit.com. Check out our membership area for all the goodies that we have, and we have tons. You want to learn education from old school floor traders? We've got a zillion tricks up our sleeve, and we try to teach it to our clients. On our client list is amazingly, we've more than doubled our client list this year, our students. So, we're happy as heck. So there must be something to this option education thing. I don't know, but there must be something.
Teaching all those people to buy calls in those 30-cent names. That's where the money is, Mr. Rock Lobster. Find out for yourselves over there. Optionpit.com to learn more. And on behalf of the Uncle, so actually before we go, I got to mention again here, this episode brought to you by our friends over there at Demand Derivatives. This episode, of course, what is Demand Derivatives? Startup futures exchange and clearinghouse. Trading the world's major assets in a creative new way. You guys already trade on an exchange. Here's your chance to actually own one before they approach large strategic partners for funding. They have set up a crowdfunding portal so that you guys, aka regular traders out there, have a chance to buy shares as well. Where do you go? DemandDerivatives.com. DEMAND. Derivatives.com to learn more. Click on the crowdfunding portal. That'll take you there for all the information. Small minimums so everyone can play, and they've already raised about $100,000 or so, if not more. So it's off rocking and rolling. But if you want to play, it only goes to December 15th. So get on out there. We want to thank them for supporting the show, and thank all of you out there for downloading, streaming, subscribing, for listening live, for sending in your questions, for everything else that you do. Keep it coming. We'll be back in exactly half an hour with some great vol goodness on TWIFO. And otherwise, we'll see you back here again tomorrow, noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern, for Volatility Views. And it all kicks off again on Monday with another episode of the Option Block.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app, available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.